From our separate joys and struggles, we come here to find the peace of balance, to find the blessing of restlessness. All are welcome. To follow, to lead, to teach, to learn, all are welcome. To join in the dance, to catch our breath, all are welcome. The words of Wendy Bartel and Lynn Gardner. Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Church. I'm Angela Herrera, the senior minister here. We're joined this morning by the Reverend Bob LaValle, our associate minister, and by music director Susan Peck. Our DJ today is our technical arts director, Chris Paul, and Casey Spivey is our lay leader. And get this, we're also excited to welcome the entire congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces, New Mexico this morning. And we've folded them right into our team of leaders for this service. You'll see the Las Cruces Director of Religious Education, Kelly Ingram, joining our own Mia Noren for the Time for All Ages today. Catherine Massey joins Susan Peck in providing our music. Katie Fitzgerald joins Casey as a fellow lay leader. And we even have a Las Cruces usher, Sarah Reyes. Welcome again to all. As we begin, Casey has some announcements to share.
Good morning. Listen well. I'm going to make your ears burn. There are 4 announcements this morning. Are you new here? Join our Director of Membership and Communications, Lara Magnuson, for New to First UU, a short informal chat immediately following the service today. The Zoom link and meeting ID will be shared in the chat bar. Tonight at 6 p.m., you will have the opportunity to bid on a future sermon topic of your choice from either Reverend Angela or Reverend Bob. This Zoom party will be a night of laughter and fun with MC and auctioneer Arnie Gullerud and music from Susan Peck. Come with a topic in mind or come anyway and enjoy the show. Go to the link in the chat for information about how to join in. We regret to say that the memorial wall event planned in the church's memorial garden for Sunday, November 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. has been postponed due to dramatic increases in the rate of COVID-19. At a press conference on Friday, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham specifically asked New Mexicans to avoid even outside events with others and issued a new stay-at-home order beginning this Monday. Although social distancing and other precautions were always part of the plan, under these circumstances, we feel the most responsible decision is to delay our special
Hey, Casey, you're muted, unfortunately. Can you unmute?
Better? Do I need to back up?
Casey, let's have you back up to next Sunday, November 22nd.
Okay. Next Sunday, November 22nd, please join us online at 1:30 for the annual Interfaith Thanksgiving service hosted by First Congregational United Church. Join us for wisdom and music for our various faith traditions. The Very Reverend Christina Malden, Dean of the Cathedral of St. John, will deliver the message, Homeless for the Holiday. Our beneficiary is Heading Home's Holiday of Hope campaign. So keep your eye on our broadsheet for the updated link to this event.
Will you join me in the lighting of candles and chalices? We kindle these flames as a symbol of our UU heritage, a reminder of those who came before us, who were once the custodians of this tradition, through times of celebration and loss, and as a promise to those who will come after us, that, in the words of the psalmist, joy comes in the morning.
Good morning. My name is Susan Peck. I'm the Director of Music at First Unitarian Church of Albuquerque, and I invite you to join me in our opening song this morning, Circle Round for Freedom by Linda Hirschhorn. We'll sing through it about 5 times because it's short and it's a good song, and that way you can sink into it. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep our circle, circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle, circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep our circle, circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle, keep the circle, keep the circle.
Hi, I'm Olivia and I'm a nurse. I'm Heather and I'm a midwife. Will you join us in the children's affirmation? We are Unitarian, Universalists. We are people of faith with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. Thank you.
During our next section, we're going to mute the chat while I'm speaking in order to gather our hearts. but the chat will be open during the Candles of Remembrance video and the Joys and Concerns video for everyone to share. This is a time when fall tips towards winter, and a time when the veil between the living and the dead thins, and their ongoing presence in our lives is acknowledged. Each of our lives has been shaped by people who are now gone. All of us, if we live long enough, will lose someone we love, and we'll carry that grief and our love for them in our hearts. We may also lose people with whom we've had a difficult relationship, and the process of growth and the possibility of forgiveness continues. Death does not have the final word in our relationships. Whether our ancestors changed us for the better or just for good, they remain our teachers long after they are gone. And in all these ways, those who have died are really still with us. They form a great invisible cloud of witnesses. Let us honor them. What you'll see next is a montage of photos submitted by members of the Albuquerque and Las Cruces congregations, photos of people we wish to remember. And if there are other names on your hearts this morning, I invite you to write their names in the chat box during the video so that we can hold them with you. All these deceased loved ones we remember and honor. I speak the name of Beatrice Mitchell into this sacred space. All these loved ones, we lift up to the great powers of healing and renewal known by many names. May light perpetual shine upon them. We give thanks for the lives of those who have died and for the love that remains. And wherever there may remain a trace of misunderstanding on our part, we pray for the healing balm of forgiveness. Let us move into a reflection upon the present as we share our joys and concerns. When the video begins, type your joys and concerns into the chat bar. All these joys and concerns we lift up to the great powers of celebration, healing, and renewal, known by many names. Will you join me in prayer? We pray for Jenny Johns and her dear niece Gwen, who is hospitalized due to COVID. May they know that we hold them in our hearts. And may those who resist the reality of this pandemic find the wisdom and compassion to understand that we are truly interdependent. We lift up Jan Thompson of the Las Cruces congregation. Jan was presented the 2020 Carrie Hamblin Award for LGBTQ plus leadership in our community by the Board of Directors of PFLAG, an organization for LGBTQ plus people and their parents and friends and allies. May she know support and success in her work. We pray for this country, that we may see the potential of who we can become as a people and be driven by our hopes and not our fears. On this Sunday before the Transgender Day of Remembrance, we honor the memory of those whose lives have been lost as the result of transphobia. May we remember that transphobia exists on a continuum and that there is a line from the violence that transgender people live with all the way to the ways that we fail to live into full gender justice in our everyday practices. In this time of transition and trouble, may we hold to the things that we know to be true, and may we hold each other with loving compassion. Amen. Blessed be, and peace be with you.
Good morning. It is so good to be with you today. I'm Catherine Massey, Director of Music at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces, and I invite you to sing with me one of our favorite hymns, Gracias por el amor.
Our reading this morning is Wintered Over by Lisa Breger. Water carries sunlight along a narrow, twisting stream. Sunlight glitters on the water's back. Light among dark trees. I watch a hawk in the distance glide the thermals, rise and circle the open space over Lake Cachechewate. Soon it will be lilac season, among other kindnesses. To have weathered this harsh winter didn't take courage or strength, though the lilacs are hardy and the season brings forth. How can I have nothing to say about this? A survivor always has a story. Maybe you just keep on living, even when the odds are against you. A nurse brings a saucer of milk to your lips. And the cat in you, how many lives now, takes a swallow. Then you lift a hand and take her hand, another sip, and lift yourself up, which is what I remember. Transplanted stem cells find their way back to the marrow. I was neither strong nor brave. I stayed in bed and looked out the window. Some days the old oaks across the way swayed in the wind. Other days, stillness and birds. I don't know why I made it. Don't we all have a fierce desire to see a hummingbird drink from the trumpet vine?
I'm going to start this morning with a story, the story of what I think might be the most annoying get well card that was ever sent. The card was received by the magazine publisher William Siegel in 1971. Siegel was 67 years old and recently widowed. Still filled with grief, he went to lunch one day, had several hard drinks, and then traveling home at a high rate of speed, he crashed his car. He was unconscious for a while, during which time he had a vision of lying in darkness with two glowing discs above him. He understood that he had a choice. If he went toward one, he would die without experiencing any further pain. If he went toward the other, he would live, but it would entail even more suffering than he had already known. Concerned that people would think he had taken his life on purpose, out of grief, he chose to live. When he awoke in a hospital bed, he had two shattered hips, a fractured skull, and all the bones in his face were broken. He was still in the hospital when he received the card. It came from a Zen master. The note said, "Lucky man, one accident like yours is worth 10,000 sittings in a monastery." Lucky man. Easy for that guy to say, right? Some religious philosophy, when it's offered in real life, frankly, just sounds insensitive. Like lucky man is right up there with everything happens for a reason, or they're with Jesus now. Sometimes we need empathy, compassion first, philosophy later. I doubt Siegel felt lucky, but Siegel had been a student of Buddhism for many years, and the Zen master was his friend. And even though he sometimes wondered where he would find the will to continue through the healing process, and even though he would not be able to make a full physical recovery, he did come to see that time of loss and injury as an important and valuable time in his life. It's like that saying, sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but you've actually been planted. A fellow magazine editor, Tracy Cochran, visited William Siegel often in his later years. He ended up living to be 95 years old. He wore the simple clothing of a monk. Because of the accident, he also wore an eye patch, and he often answered the door with a big green pet parrot on his shoulder, giving the impression of a very contemplative pirate. As Cochran reflected on how hard it had been for Siegel to summon the will to heal, She wrote, "Maybe what is needed to heal is not will, but willingness." Maybe what's needed to heal is not will, but willingness. There are times in our lives when we don't know how we will go on, when it seems like there's no power left in us, will or otherwise. There are times when you cannot see the path out of pain or loss. I think that must be where we get that phrase, dark times, when we're in need of healing, like when we've suffered a loss or an injury of some kind. Our vision, meaning our perspective, becomes really constrained, and it can be so hard to see beyond what's just right in front of us. It's like trying to see in the dark. In those times, winter holidays, which are supposed to be such a happy time, can unfortunately make us feel even further removed from happiness or wellness. They may even increase our painful feelings. It's why we've begun holding a Blue December service each year at First Unitarian, a service geared toward anybody who might be feeling blue. That service was especially important to us this year, with the pandemic casting its shadow over everything and keeping us more isolated than usual from each other. So we're going to hold our Blue December service on Zoom on Wednesday, December 9th at 7 p.m. Could one of our ushers or somebody put a link in the chat box for us with that? It's the same link that we use for all of our Wednesday Vespers, but this one will be the special Blue December service, and all are welcome. In those times when we can't picture the way forward, though, those times when we wonder how healing could ever happen, it's enough to just keep waking up each day. It might even be more helpful to stop trying to map our way out of it, actually, and tend to small mercies. When he was still in the hospital, William Siegel noticed a young woman who took extra care to mix his drink so that it tasted just right. He was on a liquid diet due to the facial injuries. It was a small act of kindness, yet it was also a healing one in its small way, one of many that he began to notice. In a poem, the late minister Nancy Schaefer captures how simple the beginning of healing might need to be. She writes, "How shall we mend you, sweet soul? With these, I think, gently we can begin. We will mend you with a rocking chair, some raisins, a cat, a field of lavender beginning now to bloom." We hear this simplicity in this morning's reading too, in that poem, Wintered Over, where the poet does not know how she has endured, but the sight of hummingbirds strikes her as an important part of it. In that poem, the writer, who had been in such a dark place that it seemed to be some other force in her, drinking milk like a cat, she's lifted her eyes when she gets to that line. She can see now more than a few months earlier, when life had been so dark and her focus had been so limited. She doesn't just see a hummingbird now. She says, doesn't everybody want to see hummingbirds? Don't we have a fierce desire to see hummingbirds drink from a trumpet vine? And we, her readers, understand that this is not only about birds, but about being able to be moved by what is deeply beautiful and deeply life-giving. Rachel Naomi Remen calls this perspective the view from the edge of life. She says, the view from the edge of life is so much clearer than the view that most of us have. What seems to be important is much more simple and accessible for everybody. She says from that view, it's also clear that what matters is who you've touched on your way through life, who has touched you. What you're leaving behind you in the hearts and minds of other people, she says, is far more important than whatever wealth you may have accumulated. No one would wish for the kind of experience that brings us to the view from the edge of life. In her book, When Things Fall Apart, Pema Chodron says, most of us do not take these situations as teachings. We automatically hate them. We run like crazy. We use all kinds of ways to escape. And she says, all addictions stem from this moment when we meet our edge and we just can't stand it. She's talking now about life's smaller edges as well as the big cliffs. She says we feel like we have to soften it, to pad it with something, and we become addicted to whatever it is that seems to ease the pain. But burying the pain is not the same as transforming it. In fact, burying pain may be like planting it. It only grows. Facing it is hard, but not facing it will ultimately also be hard and potentially a whole lot messier. When life takes us to the edge, one of the gifts of that kind of time, if we're open to it, if we have that willingness, is increased compassion. Having suffered, having lost, we become acquainted with darkness. We become acquainted with our failure to live a well-ordered life, which was never really in our control in the first place. We become intimately acquainted with the fact that all of this is such a deeply human experience. It's part of being human, and it feels like brokenness, but all of those losses and changes become part of our wholeness. In his book called Waking, a memoir of trauma and transcendence, Matthew Sanford writes, "Earlier in this book, I wrote that I am both brokenhearted and desperately in love. I was mistaken. I have never been heartbroken. It is not possible. What I thought was broken was actually my heart revealing its depth. It has affinity not just with having and holding, but also with silence and loss. It has affinity not just with living, but also with dying," he says. Encountering our humanness at this personal, vulnerable level enables us then to witness it in others too, to see it and witness it. Compassion. One of the things that is so important to understand about healing is it's not the same thing as fixing, and it's not the same as a cure. Medicine can cure some things. In the grand scheme of human hurts and losses, though, the things that can be cured are a small fraction. Everything else requires healing. And sometimes a thing can be cured, but the person still needs to be healed, right? I will never forget a young man I visited as a chaplaincy intern in a big city hospital. He had been incorrectly diagnosed with an aggressive terminal cancer. When I walked into his hospital room, he had just learned that it was all a mistake. But his life had already come undone. The cancer was gone. In fact, it had never existed. But coming face to face with his mortality like that, seeing himself fall apart and not be bulletproof, as he put it, had deeply, deeply shaken him. Maybe we can help you become bulletproof in a more bulletproof way, I suggested. I was thinking of a kind of strength that can contain fear and sadness instead of the kind that never cries. On another floor, I had met another young person who really did have terminal cancer. She had also developed a deep, unflappable connection with her life's meaning. She had really found a way to make room in herself for all of it, for fear, sadness, and joy. Healing happens when we come to understand our experience as part of a foundation from which we can live a good life, however long we might have. Rachel Naomi Remen has lived with chronic illness since she was a young teen. She's had to undergo lots of major surgeries. And even though she's a doctor who works with some of the best doctors in the world, nobody can cure it. She says sometimes what appears to be a catastrophe over time becomes a strong foundation from which to live a good life. It's possible to live a good life, even though it isn't an easy life. If we are lucky to live long enough, every one of us will end up living with losses and changed selves that we would not have wanted. I remember reflecting on this truth when my children were very little, how I wished I could protect them from suffering. I was such a mama bear back then, like a grizzly bear, and maybe I kind of still am. And yet, I told myself, you did not bring them into this world to experience half a life. I want them to have deep, meaningful lives. And the view from the edge acquaints us with life's depth. for all of us. There will be darkness and light, darkness and light. Pema Chodron writes, things come together and they fall apart. Then they come together again and they fall apart again. It's just like that, she says. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, for relief, for misery, for joy. In one of Tracy Cochran's visits to him toward the end of his years, William Siegel would sometimes marvel, I've had a good life, haven't I? Whatever life brings, may we all experience such wholeness. May we all be able to count ourselves so lucky. Maybe so.
Good morning. I'm Katie Fitzgerald from Las Cruces Church, here to introduce the offering. We Give by Kristen Collins. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. First U in Albuquerque sponsors a Change for the Future collection every service with a different recipient every quarter. This quarter's recipient is SAGE. SAGE provides support for older LGBT people in the Albuquerque metropolitan area through advocacy, social programs, education, support groups, and resource distribution. We counter isolation, fear, and loneliness by creating a caring community of LGBT elders who will look out for each other. You can donate using the link in the chat bar or by check. In either case, write Change for the Future in the memo line. The link to make an offering to UULC, or the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces, will also be placed in the chat bar. We will now take up the offering for the work of these churches.
To make the wounded
What is generously given is received with gratitude. Thank you on behalf of the UU Church of Las Cruces and First Unitarian Church of Albuquerque, and thank you on behalf of SAGE. As we move towards the end of the service, I just want to remind you that we're offering breakout rooms. It's kind of an exciting opportunity to have a coffee hour where you can meet folks from another church. And want to suggest a possible discussion question in your breakout rooms. The question is, how have you created room for all the things? For grief, for relief, for misery, for joy. I think Michaela is going to put that in the chat. How have we created room for all the things? For grief, for relief, for misery, for joy.
The time has come to extinguish our chalices and candles, and I see that this one from our sanctuary has actually somehow extinguished itself during the service, just like when we had church in person, it sometimes did that. Some things never change, but don't worry, there's always more light somewhere. So we extinguish these flames, but not the light of love. Go in peace, friends, and may love bless you and keep you until we're gathered again. Blessed be.
I said, Julian, you are holy, you are holding my hand. And Julian, you are holy, you are holding my hand. She said, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. I said, Julian, do you not know about sorrow? And Julian, do you not know about pain? And I said, Julian, do you not know about hunger? And Julian, do you not know about shame? But she said, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. I said, Julian, do you not know about loneliness? And Julian, do you not know about disease? And I said, Julian, do you not know about cruelty? I said, Julian, it's too much, it brought me to my knees. But she said, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. And she said, no one does not know about sorrow. And no one does not know about pain. She said, no one does not know about hunger. No one does not know about shame. And she said, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. She said, no one does not know about loneliness. And no one does not know about disease. And she said, no one does not know about cruelty. She said, I know, it's too much, it brought me to my knees, where I heard, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. not know about friends? And she said, baby girl, do you not know? Do you not know about the Spirit? She said, baby girl, do you not know? It's only